Hey, Mitch.
Oh, hey, Ed, how are you?
I'm fantastic. I'm so excited about today's classic cartoon. We're talking about Space
Yeah,
Ghost.
I'm all set too. Look, I got the toast ready and I got
What?
my toaster so we can make some more if we run out.
What?
Mhm.
No, no, no. Not Space Toast. Space
What?
Ghost.
No, no, toast. I heard you.
No,
I got
uh,
something stuck in here.
I wouldn't do that if I was you.
Ah, what? Calm down.
Uh, let's just start the show. Hi, this is Ed Dollister.
And this is Mitch Halleck.
And welcome to another exciting episode of Mitch and Ed's Excellent Adventure. If it's your first time here, thanks so much for joining us. If you are a regular viewer, thanks. Oh, my voice is breaking. I'm getting emotional because we're close to 1,000 subscribers. That's what it is. If you're a regular viewer, thanks for coming back. Hey, Mitch, if you are new to the show, how can you find out a little bit more about what we do?
Oh, Ed, it is easy as slapping on some power wristbands and fighting the Council of Doom. All you have to do is subscribe to our show, and it is so simple. All you do is press this button below, and you'll be subscribed. It's not going to cost you any money. We're not going to come knocking at your door. We're not going to come calling you at 3 in the morning and say, pick us up at the airport. All we're saying is
Once.
subscribe
I
to the
did that
show.
once.
Subscribe to the show. It was you actually, and you'll know when Ed and I go talk about TV, cartoons, movies, toys, and more. That's all we're asking you to do.
Yeah.
And today, Ed, we're going back to the land of cartoons and talking about one of my favorites. Do you know who it is?
I do. It's Space Ghost. Or should I say, so I remember watching this series as a kid or having experienced it, but I didn't, when I was doing my research back on this, I didn't realize that it went way back to 1966 because I wasn't born back then. So I must have seen it on reruns when it came out. And it's had another iteration, in the early 80s as well, which we'll talk about. But Space Ghost seems to be around for forever. And I remember him, but he's never sort of made it
Yeah.
to a top tier sort of superhero, I would have said.
What?
Were you a fan of Space Ghost when he came out?
Watch your mouth there. Space Ghost, I could say I remember watching it, but however, since it started on September 10th, 1966, I was only about July, August. I was only 2 months old at that time, way back then. So I did not get to see Hanna-Barbera's brand new superhero created by the great Alex Toth
Yes.
with his costume design. Fantastic show. But no, he's a staple in the world, the pantheon of Saturday morning superheroes. I wouldn't
Mhm.
say he's like up there with the Jetsons or maybe Batman or anything like that, or Blue Falcon and Dynamite, but he has been around for a good 57 years, just like me. And he's got his highs and lows. But listen, Space Ghost, you got to know, was part of a show when they
Mhm.
were just experimenting with like the Herculoids. It was that whole
Well,
Hanna-Barbera.
Alex Toth, who created Space,
Yeah,
or worked on Space Ghost, of course,
yeah.
worked on Herculoids, and you can find out about the Herculoids up here.
One of our most popular shows
Mhm.
too. But no, it's one of those things where Hanna-Barbera, look, they were just making their own stuff. They had licensed things like the Fantastic Four from Marvel, but I think they were like, hey, we could do this too. And
Mhm.
they came up with Space Ghost, who's a fantastic superhero who's got all types of powers from invisibility to like rays that shoot out of his eyes and his wristbands and super strength. He's got freeze rays sometime, whatever needed to be done.
Yes.
Suddenly, like Batman's utility belt, all Space Ghost had to do was press those bands and he'd come. He had a spaceship too, the Phantom, the space was it Phantom One or something like that? You don't
Yeah, it was a
know?
pretty cool spaceship that he'd fly around and he could just jump out of
He would just
in
jump
mid
out of it. Wasn't
space.
even need that spaceship. It's like why? And then of course you were never going to be popular unless you had teenage sidekicks, and he
Yes.
had some cool ones there. He had Jace and Jan,
Yes. And
and of course,
don't forget Blip the monkey.
I was going to say if teenage sidekicks aren't enough, you need a monkey. And who was he voiced by? But Johnny Quest, one of our other more popular
Yep.
episodes on the
Tim
Mitch and
Matheson.
Ed show, Tim Matheson. was the voice of Jace.
That's
And
right.
do you know the backstory of? Well, you know what? I'm jumping ahead of myself.
No, you go, you go. That's all right.
No, 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 because what happens is it was just Space Ghost. He was just a guy, he was a superhero, kind of like Batman. He would just
Mhm.
patrol the outer space regions and stuff, and he fought all kind of bad guys. He had Brack, he had Moltar,
Yeah,
he had
Zorak.
Zorak was the alien, the bug guy.
Yes.
Uh geez, he had Metalis. They had a bunch, he had a whole, rogues gallery of these
Mhm.
cool space guys. And he would just show up, and it was basically like Johnny Quest meets superhero people, and
And they were short, as you said, the there was Dino Boy episodes along
yeah,
with
that's another
Space
story.
Ghost. So
Yeah,
they were quite like maybe 5 or 6 minute episodes
yeah,
within. They
yeah,
did about 42 episodes in the original series,
yeah.
and they were all self-contained and
Yeah,
just little fun little adventures with that
and don't think about
fantastic
it. It's
design.
just
Yeah,
yeah, it's just, sit back, relax, eat your bowl of cereal on a Saturday morning, and just watch the Adventures of Space Ghost while you're waiting for Scooby Doo to come on, or
yeah.
HR Puffin stuff, or whatever. Those they weren't even around yet. So anyway,
Not yet. No, they were later on in the 60s. Yeah.
no, no. So he comes on. It's a good show. Now I saw it as a kid too because they reran it, but then again, it had a second life
Hmm.
in 1981 when
Yes.
NBC. Now originally he was on CBS here. Then he jumps on to NBC because Hanna Barbera had Space Stars, dun, 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 and they had the Herculoids came back,
Mhm.
and then they had like Space Teens. I can't remember what their names were, but it was like a Team
Yes.
Force type of thing. And Space Ghost was like the older, elder superhero guy, kind of like the old Batman, and he would show up too. But Tim Matheson didn't show up, and we forgot to mention Space Ghost here in the States. I don't know about over there, but there was a legendary radio announcer named Gary Owens who was on Laughing,
Yes,
and
he
he had
was
his
the
big raps.
narrator or the voiceover guy, wasn't he?
Yeah, he always had his like hand over here on his earpiece. I don't know what it was like. What will happen? And he always had his notes like this. Tune in tomorrow, and that was Gary Owens. I mean, everything. I think Real People was a show here that was on NBC in the 80s and the late
Mhm.
70s. He was the narrator and the voiceover announcer for that too. But he had a really deep, rich radio voice.
Yes.
He was perfect for Space Ghost. But Space Ghost had a lot of other people too. Did you ever watch the Adams Family? Ted
Yes.
Cassidy, who played Lurch. He
Yes.
was the voice of one of the bad guys too. I think he was
Mhm.
Metalis or maybe
Uh,
Moltar.
Key Luke
Key
from
Luke from Gremlins was the
yes.
yeah, 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 yeah. I forgot he was on there too. Everybody was on there. Key Luke starred as Brack.
Yes,
He's gonna go on later on. We're gonna jump ahead, but
we will.
the super, yeah, the Space Stars, it was okay. Early 80s. Didn't
Yeah, I
last
think
that.
that's where I probably remembered him from, but I'm sure they did reruns of the original TV series because they did certainly in Australia we had Johnny Quest as well,
Yeah,
well after
yeah,
the fact
yeah.
I remember watching too.
Well,
So,
before he gets his fame as a comedy legend,
mhm,
Space Ghost was in comic books too. Back in the 60s, there was Gold Key, which did like all the TV, Scooby-Doo, Hanna-Barbera stuff. They
mhm,
did a Space Ghost, couple comics there. Marvel did like TV superstars once featuring them there. Then DC does a really cool book, and this is before he comes back on Comedy Network or Cartoon Network. It was just written by a guy named Joe Kelly. Now,
mhm.
you might not know this, but people out there, if you've ever watched a Deadpool movie, the character of Deadpool, where he breaks the fourth wall, even though the character is created by Rob Liefeld and I can't think of his Fabian Nicieza in the comics, the New Mutants and X Force and all that. The whole idea of him talking back to the audience and all that you see in the Deadpool movies comes from a guy named Joe Kelly.
Mm.
Now, Joe Kelly also goes on to write a comic strip and a cartoon called Ben 10, but that's down the road. But he wrote this Space Ghost origin for DC Comics. It was a 6-issue series.
Mhm.
Alex Olivetti was the artist. It tells the story of Space Ghost like you wouldn't believe. He's
It's
got a real,
hardcore.
huh?
It's hardcore.
Oh
His
no, that's what I'm
wife's
saying.
murdered,
His
unborn
pregnant wife is murdered. He's left.
unborn child murdered.
Yeah, he's left for dead on this planet, which is Earth, but they call it the ghost planet because there's nothing alive on it.
Mhm,
And this ancient guy named Solomon nurtures him back. It's almost like the Lone Ranger story. You know what I mean?
yes,
Like all the Rangers are dead but one, and
mhm,
Tonto nurses him back to health. And then he puts on a mask to go avenge his fallen Rangers and stuff. So
Mhm.
that's kind of like what the Space Ghost. But you're right. It's a dark story, man, because he betrays. He's like on a space patrol,
Yes.
and the other guys that are with him are like dirty cops, basically,
Mhm.
and they grab some aliens and steal their stuff and kill them. And he's like, "Hey, what are you guys doing? We're not supposed to do that. We're the Space Force and all that." And then they whack him and leave him for dead. So yeah, you're right. And they kill his wife and his unborn child, and then he comes back. And his real name in this story is like Dickerson Thaddeus. Oh, it's a humongous name for
Yeah.
Space Ghost. And his last name is Ghost or Ghostal,
Yeah.
you know? And of course it is. God forbid his name was like Lipschitz. It would be like Space
Slip
Lipschitz
shits.
or Space, Delmonico. Or no, it just so happened to be Ghostal. And to fool the bad guys, he drops the AAL at the end. Hey, wait a minute. Obi-Wan Kenobi, Ben Kenobi, who knew?
I
Yes.
know.
Thaddeus Ghostal, Space Ghost. You think they're connected? Maybe they are. So anyway, in this comic book series, Alex Ross, legendary, beautiful comic book
Yes.
artist, known for all his work that Marvel and DC, he painted the covers.
Mm.
The artwork was great. You're like, wow, this is such an amazing Space Ghost story. He's serious. He's a crime fighter. What else could happen to Space Ghost? And then in 1994, what happens?
He gets a talk show.
Yeah, of course he does. And he becomes like a comedy legend as
That's
he
right. Space Ghost Coast to Coast. And I think
wow.
that's probably where a lot of maybe younger listeners maybe know him from that.
Yeah.
But I never really watched I think I watched one or two. We didn't it was on like not Cartoon Network on
It starts off on Cartoon Network. Let me look at
yes.
my notes there. And then it moved over there. It actually was one of the first shows ever on that network, the
Yep.
Comedy Central thing. But the thing of it is, it's funny you say you only saw one or two episodes, and no offense to it, it lasted for many years and
Oh
then
my
to
gosh,
the
yes.
2000s. But if you really did see one or two, you've seen them all. Because what they would do is they would ask a bunch of celebrities to come on and he would interview them. And they
Yes.
would have a bunch of questions, like I've seen one with Mark Hamill and a bunch of other actors.
Yeah,
So
Weird Al
they do a straight,
Yankovic. Yep.
yeah, they do a straight on interview. And then the writers took that and changed the questions that Space
Hmm.
Ghost was asking, totally different from the answers that were given. And they would just splice them together. So when
Yep.
you're watching it, it is very disjointed, kind of like our show. You don't know what the hell the other guys talk. And that's what, but it worked. But no matter what episode you see, it's kind of like the same.
And they actually reused the
Pattern.
original cells from the
Yeah,
original
yeah,
show, apart from a few. And they cut to was Brack, wasn't it? Or Zorak
crack.
was
Yeah, yeah,
his
yeah.
was his sidekick. There was a whole
Yep.
backstory.
Yeah, it was
It
kind of like here we had Johnny Carson, so you had like a
yeah,
sidekick, you had a music guy that led the band and everything, and that was Moltar, who's the dude in the radiation suit and such.
yes.
But the backstory is they actually had a story where they were with the Council of Doom. They were like his bad guys. They were trying to kill him all the time, and they were all in suspended animation, like Han Solo. So he gets them out of suspended animation, kind of like a work release program from a
Hmm.
prison, if they agree to be on the show. But they're always trying to kill him,
Yeah.
especially
Zorak?
Zorak was always trying to kill Space Ghost and stuff. So it
Yeah.
was a very odd behind the scenes, kind of like the Muppet Show, where there's
Yes.
always something happening backstage and like more to it than what you see.
It's weird. I mean, I'm not sure the humor for me sort of, I think
Yeah,
once you've seen a little shtick, you
yeah,
watch
it's
a
the
whole
same.
interview, you go, okay, they did a whole show of that, and it had a spin-off. There was the Brack show.
The Brack
Um,
Show, yeah, he had his
did
own
you
show.
know also that he released Space Ghost released, I think, 3 albums.
Three record albums, yeah, yeah. Surf
The
and Turf,
barbecue, there was Surf and Turf.
and then there's the first one was something about sing along or swinging
Yes.
superheroes. That was it. That was it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
there's all this. There was you said the comics. There was also Future Quest, which we
Future
talked
Quest, which was
about
a
on
DC
Johnny
comic
Quest
thing.
because it had all those stable of comics,
Yeah, yeah.
comic
Johnny
characters.
Quest, the Herculoids, they all
Yep.
teamed up and stuff like that.
Yep.
And then
So
he
that
even pops up on Batman Brave and Bold. Did you know that?
I did see that, and he's appeared in like
Oh, the
Space
Hanna-Barbera.
Jam. He's appeared in quite a few of
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
he's a sort of a well known
Well,
character,
see, that's
even
the
though
weird
he's on
thing.
the
He's like,
periphery.
it's kind of like Dynamite. You know, who Dynamite was Blue
I
Falcon and
used to
Dynamite.
hate
He's
that
kind of like,
show.
huh?
I hated that show.
So did I. But it was a
Yeah.
cool idea. The Blue
Yes.
Falcon looked cool. Dynamite was stupid, but
Yeah.
it was like, oh, okay, and they had the thing. But overall, it's pretty dumb.
Yeah. So,
But
and
what?
we've got to talk quickly about collectibles. Obviously, at
Oh,
the
the
time,
toys are nuts.
there wasn't at the time when it came out,
No.
but they have released. I think is it the world's greatest superhero line? They're like
Well, they have like
Mego
Nego size figures that they did Jan and Jason. They had
and
Blip.
Blip, and they got a Space Ghost, and then they brought out Space Ghost Coast to Coast figures as
Oh
well.
yeah, where you had the desk and the band and everything. But
Yeah,
they go for big money.
they do.
Jackson or Jason, that's the name of the company, JZEN or
Oh
something like
yes,
that.
yes.
And then Mezco did one. Mezco are those people that do the
Yep.
really nice, detailed 7-inch action figures with all the stuff. They've got statues of Space Ghost that go for about $700.
There's a Funko Pop you can
Oh,
get.
of course, there's a Funko Pop. Yeah. They released those a couple years ago. There's a little Funko Soda Pop one too. In the 60s, there was a coloring book.
Mm-hmm.
There was these little tiny board books about Space Ghost that came out. And I don't think he had a board game.
I couldn't find any board games.
There was no board games or no lunchbox either.
No, no. I think it
But
was a bit too early, and then probably missed the
the
cut with
merchandise
that 80s
plane,
show,
yeah.
you know, sort of for that. But you can get there is like a not a Blu-ray, but there's a DVD of the complete
Yeah,
series
of
that
all
you
the
can get
shows,
as
yeah.
well. You can find episodes. I was watching a couple on YouTube.
YouTube.
They're just fun little, you know, as we said, 5-minute little snippets.
Like Johnny
And
Quest type of things.
the
Yeah.
production design is really great.
Oh yeah.
The character design is awesome, and
I would
those
watch
sound
the
effects, those good old Hanna-Barbera sound effects.
Oh yeah,
you
that
know I
that.
love.
You would hear those sound effects for years on the Super Friends
Yeah.
and all that, but they're all on Space Ghost and Johnny Quest. But honestly, between the comedy, Space Ghost, and the adventure stuff, I'd watch the old adventure stuff. You know what I mean? When it was more serious in tone and
Yeah.
science fiction instead of this wacky Jay Leno, David Letterman, goofy talk show type of thing. It's fun,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's all right.
Yeah, I agree.
don't-
Check them
I
out.
don't-
You can get the Space Ghost Coast to Coast on DVD as well. So
You know what the funny thing is? There's a brand new Space Ghost comic book coming out from Dynamite Comics in a
Oh.
couple months, and it's already pre-ordered like crazy. I saw multiple covers coming out for it, so he's definitely got a huge following out there. Space Ghost he rocks, man.
Oh, that's good. You know what else rocks? Our show. How can you
That's
find out
right.
more about Space Ghost and all the other shows that we
Oh,
have
and
on?
it's easy as jumping on a spaceship and partying with a bunch of teenage kids and they're a monkey and getting weird. That didn't sound right.
No, it
Anyway,
didn't.
all you do is hit the button below and pretend you too are fighting the Council of Doom on the. Nah, you're not fighting anybody. You're just watching us every week as we try to remember all those cartoons that we used to love when we were kids and adults, and we
Yeah.
never grew up.
Look
Right here,
Look
on
at us.
Mitch and Ed- I know. Look at this, right? I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm eating toast in a basement, playing with comic books and toys, and you know,
That's
hey,
what we
it's
get
a
up to.
living. Yeah.
So if you enjoy that, we'd love to see you next time. And if you've got a suggestion, you know, put it in the comments, or if you have a special memory about Space Ghost, please, we'd love to hear from you. Space Ghost. This is Ed Dollister,
And this is Mitch Howard.
and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.